Today's webinar is on managing inventory, and we're going to cover the different areas that FrameReady stores that information, how you can access it and use that information to make better buying decisions, and the reports that are available to you. So I will start out with our not our handout actually, but the two graphics that I have that I wanted to show you. And one of them is on framing. So let's go and take a look at that one first. So the framing materials that you have in your price codes file right now will be removed from inventory two ways. You can either go onto a work order, and of course, once you've entered them onto a work order, if you're using the automatic method of inventory, then it will deduct it from the inventory while it's on the work order screen. If you are using the manual method of inventory, it's up to you to remove it. Of course, you don't necessarily have to have it on a work order screen to have it removed. If you have your framing materials and you go around to the invoice, you can actually enter retail products onto an invoice and have them removed from inventory. So if someone comes in to purchase a piece of foam core for a school project, you can enter that onto the inventory and have it removed from the materials in the price codes. So moving on down, once you have sold something, either on the work order or on the invoice, and you want to replenish those materials, then you're going to use the purchase order to order your materials. And of course, it will move back to the price codes file to put those framing materials back into the inventory on the price codes file. So that's how that one comes full circle. The other one that we have is the products file, and it does relatively the same thing. So if you have a retail product that you need to sell, you can go ahead and sell it directly onto an invoice, and of course it will take it out of inventory. But you may not be aware that you can also, if you have a piece of art that you want to frame, you can put that onto a work order and have it framed, and then you can sell it on the invoice and it will take it out of inventory. It will not take it out of inventory while it's on the work order. It's only when it's been posted to an invoice that it will take it out of inventory. While it's being held, you may see something called committed, meaning that this piece of art is committed to a sale. It hasn't been sold yet, so if somebody else scoops it up before that time, that might be okay. Otherwise, you want to check. Also moving around, once you have sold that retail product, you want to come full circle to order more, to replenish your stock, your inventory, and then of course from the purchase order, it's going to go back to the retail products file. So those are the two scenarios that I wanted to show you, that you're going to be able to come full circle through the framing materials and also through the retail products, both of those together. And we're going to cover that today. So the first thing that I want to show you is some information about the turning that inventory on or off. If you are on the main menu in FrameReady and you've decided that you want to have the automatic inventory used for the framing materials in the price codes file, don't worry about the retail products, they'll automatically come off anyway. But if you want the automatic inventory for these framing materials, you're going to go to the work order section, click on options, go down to more options, and then over on the right hand side of the screen, you want to place a check mark in the auto update of materials inventory. Once you've done that, your work order screen is going to change. And now when I go back to the work order screen, it will have two parts to it. This is the work order screen that you normally see. However, in the bottom portion, you'll notice that you cannot change any of the items that are on this work order. The only way to change those items or the measurements, because those will affect the inventory, is to click on the Modify Work Order button in the bottom right-hand corner. Once you're in the screen where you can make the changes, you can decide if you wanted to change to a different type of glass, and then it will put that museum glass back in and change it to whatever selection you've made. When you've decided that yes, those are all the changes that you want to make, now you're going to move back up to the top of the screen and decide work order done, update the inventory, or keep this as an estimate and do not change the inventory. If I don't want to change the inventory, then I do need to make it an estimate first before I click on the button to keep it as an estimate. But I'm going to click on work order done, and then the inventory of all of the materials that are in this list here will be updated. Also, a cool little tip is if you decide that you wanted to click on the icon over here, it will give you a little rundown of everything that is in the work order that you're looking at. And that's just another little screen that you can access. The great thing about the inventory is that if you decide to do the manual inventory for products that are a flat surface, it will take out a full sheet, a half a sheet, or a quarter of a sheet out of inventory. However, when it's molding, it's going to take out the actual footage that you're using and put it into the quantity field over on the right-hand side. So if you decide to do the automatic inventory, it will fill the bright yellow box over on the right-hand side and then start also filling up the quantity sold and your sales turnaround as well. And we're going to be taking a look at those screens. But if you're doing the manual inventory, then it's up to you to come back. And if you had 20 feet in stock in bin number 5, then you need to come back in and say that I've used up 8 feet and I now have 12 feet left over. Or you could decide that you want to say, I only want to count the whole 6, and then down below that I'll identify if I have any scrap left. Otherwise, FrameReady will do that for you when the automatic inventory is turned on. Use one of these methods or the other. Do not use both. And that's because of some of the reports, the numbers will print over top of each other and you won't be able to see the numbers on your reports. Sometimes you will see a negative number in your inventory if you have gone beyond the inventory or if you started using the inventory before you filled in all of the information in here. So if you've decided that you want to enter the information in, if you have marked your records to say, I've gone through my molding samples and I know all the samples that are in there. Oh, well, apparently I haven't. Map word samples, perhaps? No. Okay. Well, then I might be in the same case that you're in here. So that means that you may want to go through those items and you'll need to find them individually to say, which are the items that I use the most? Go ahead and find it and then put the amount into inventory to say that, yes, I have this in inventory. However, whatever the footage is that you have. Take that opportunity to mark the molding sample box so that you can find all those items later on. Also identify where the molding is stored, if it's in a bin number or a barrel or a tube or whatever you want to, however you want to identify it. If you have a numbering system or an alphanumeric system, this will show up on the printed work order to let you know you have this in stock. Go ahead, here's where you can locate it. So that's going to help you as well along the way. So the more fields that you fill out, the better the information is, and you can get that information quickly and easily. The fields that you're going to want to watch on this screen are the quantity field, the quantity sold field. If you do have a discount because you're ordering by length and you want to put that discount out into the discount field on the right-hand side, enter it as a decimal, and it will show you the value of your inventory. So your inventory value is not really based on the amount that you have over here on the left-hand side of $1.63. It's based on the discounted amount of 20% off $1.63, which now makes the wholesale cost $1.30. It is not going to work for chop or join because those are not things that you're keeping in inventory. So this is just for inventory. The other area that you want to take a look at is down here under sales. This is going to tell you the turnaround time so that when I sell this item on a work order, it's going to identify when it was first brought in and first sold and the next time that it was sold after that. So this has today's date in all of the fields. So therefore I'm selling this one today multiple times over, 3 times over as a matter of fact. The turnaround time is the number of days in between the previously sold and the last sold. So if I was looking for something in here that hadn't sold recently, or maybe that has sold recently, I want to go down to the last sold box, and you can use both of those fields in conjunction with each other. So I may want to find something that has sold this year, and I can just put in the year, okay, and then has not sold this year at all. So I'm going to put in 3 periods prior to that, okay, and the date of January 1st, 2020. So that means previously it sold last year and it's also sold this year. So this might be an item that's a little bit faster turning. And apparently I don't have any of those either. But if you wanted to drill down a little bit more into any of those, you can, so that you can find those items that are selling. It's only going to fill those fields when you have the automatic inventory turned on. So if I did say that I wanted to find something that was in there, remembering that the asterisk is a wildcard, go ahead and type in the asterisk, and then you'll be able to find those items that do have something in them so that you can see the inventory tracking on it. Okay, so and the turnaround time. So let's go back to the main menu. And we're also going to take a look at the products file as well, because in the products file, there are a few extra fields for you to keep an eye on. In this case, we have not only the quantity on hand field, but we also have another quantity field, and that's the out. And the out is keeping track of any art that you have sent out. So you may have had a designer or interior decorator who came in and they wanted to take the art out on spec, but you want to still track to know where it is. So that's part of your inventory that you want to count. And in your total count of the inventory, that's included, the out. And the way to sign it out is using the consignment box. There's a little truck at the top of the screen, and you would go into the consignment section and you're going to show the item on here that's going out, and then it will put it into the out field. But I'm not going to be training that today, so we'll take a look at that at another time. The other fields that you want to look at are the threshold and reorder amount, so that when this gets below 1, it's going to automatically reorder another 4 and the quantity of this. We have 4 entered in as the reorder amount, so that if I was to post it to a purchase order, it would automatically enter the number 4 on there. And it would also check the box for saying that this is on order. However, there are 2 other fields on here to keep an eye on. One is the minimum order. So if I decided, and to keep on hand, if I decided that the minimum order on this was 5, then you'll see that it's going to change the reorder amount to 5. But if I go back here and I say that I need to reorder, my reorder quantity is 4, I can change this to say I need to keep on hand 10 of these. So if that's my amount that I need to keep in stock all the time, because this is a fast selling item, then it's going to automatically calculate the amount that's going to be reordered for me. And the items are reordered from the main menu, and you can create them 2 ways. One, for the retail products, you're going to use this button down here that says Create Frame Order. If you're ordering framing materials, you're going to use this button here that says Create Frame Order. Or if you're using the purchase orders, you can go directly to the purchase orders, and those same 2 buttons are located in the top right-hand corner of the screen. So Create Frame Order or Create Purchase Order, either one of those that you can use. And they're going to do the exact same thing. Now, when we go back to this one particular record, it's going to show me that I have 4 in stock at this time. I have sold 18 in the past, and it tells me the dates that are really important, which is the receive date, and this will change. I may have originally received this back in 2014 or 2013, but I've received more inventory of this print since then, actually on March 2020. But the first time that it was sold is this date, previously sold on this date, and the last date that it was sold is this date. And it's the date, the time between the previously sold and the last sold that is calculated for the turnaround time. You can also use the fields down at the bottom right, so you can see when was this record created. So I know that actually it was really created back in 2014, and that's when this product first came into being. All right, any changes that I've made, even if I just have modified those numbers manually, which I did, because I made that change on there, it's changed the modified date. And that is the same that you're going to see on the price codes file. There's a creation date and a modified date on these as well. Some items will not have creation date because they were imported into your program with the molding, the mat board, and the fabric, but those items that you have manually entered should have a creation date on them. So you can do a find for those. If it's blank, you won't be able to find them though. Let's go back to the main menu. The other thing that I wanted to show you on the products file, if we go back to products, is that there is that committed record. So if we were to say find all the ones, and you can see there's the committed box over here on the right hand side, and if I was to say find all the items that have been committed, it would give me a list saying these are the items that are currently on a work order, and are committed to a sale, but they have not been posted to an invoice yet. If you do go back and you realize that, yes, this is on the work order, it was sold, maybe somebody didn't enter it properly on the invoice or something, you can uncheck that box for the committed to say, no, it's okay, this item really has sold, it's not committed, we don't have any in stock, but if you did want to manually add in another quantity on that, you can. The other thing that you should identify in here is the company that you're going to order the product from, so that if I did want to order more of these products, then I could just select the company down here in the bottom of the screen, whichever company it's going to be that I'm ordering this from, ABC Art Supplies. And then when I want to order it, I can click on the post to purchase order. Now, if this quantity field over on the right-hand side for the reorder is blank, then it's not going to put an amount in there. So if you wanted to put something in there, when you click on the post to purchase order, then it will post it to a purchase order and it will autofill the quantity of 5 in there. So that's just another way of keeping track of, what you want to purchase, how much, and not having to check each time that you are reordering it. So we do have a poll. Chrissy, if you want to go ahead and run the poll. And
what items do you track for inventory? Molding, mat board, glass, mounting, or hardware? Okay, I am going to close the poll. I'm going to show it to you.
okay.
There we go.
There, excellent. Yeah, molding, mat board, definitely the top 2, yeah. Wow, and hardware even beat out mounting. Yeah, which maybe that does make sense. That's great.
All right.
Thank you. Excellent. All right, so I want to go back into FrameReady and I want to show you some reports. And actually, just before I show you the reports, there were 2 other screens that you should take a look at about if you are tracking your inventory and you're doing it with the automatic system in the price codes file. So we'll go to the price codes file first. And there's a button over on the right-hand side that's called the inventory list. So if you have not entered your inventory in yet, and if you have been, and I'll just go through some of those, that if you have marked the molding sample in the box and you can do a find for the sample, or if you have some items that have sold, that might be a good indication too. So if you haven't marked the sample and you want to find items that have sold, have something in the quantity box, whether it's a positive or negative number, then, and you have the inventory controls turned on, then you can find those items and see the list. Now, if you are just looking for the items, I'll go back to the find screen. If you are just looking for those items that had something in the quantity sold box and they are molding items, then make sure you select all molding items, and that will do the wood, liner, fillet, extender as categories for you. Otherwise, if it's mat board, then you can mark the box and also select mat board. But I'm going to go back to the molding record, okay, and say that if you did have your list of the molding items that you wanted to take a look at, click on the inventory list button over on the right-hand side. And this will give you a list of all of the items that you do have in stock and allow you to enter items into a list just going down. You can sort them out numerically if you want on the previous screen, and then when you get to this screen, you can go ahead and enter in the quantities that you have for those items. So if you do have something in there. Same thing if you wanted to, if you wanted to enter in the location field, and I think probably we should make that field accessible in here because it isn't right now. So in the meantime, then you would have to go back and then go back to the location field, okay, and enter in the location that you have. But I do think that would be a nice feature to be able to modify the location field in this screen here. So this is the screen that you have available in the price codes file. And then in the products file, you have that same screen available over on the right-hand side where you can click on the inventory list and you can see the quantity that you have on hand there. Again, if we go back to the form view, you can do the exact same thing in here. And because you may have a quantity of 1 or lower, as long as there's something in the field, you can use the asterisk. If you decide you wanted to find anything that's greater than 0, you're not concerned about the negatives, then just click in the quantity on hand field, enter greater than 0, perform find, and then you'll get a list of everything that does have a quantity in it right now. If you're seeing a 0 in the field, that's because this item was out, but it has been returned. So it came back or it was sold. So that's what that field is telling you. If we go to the inventory list field here, you're also going to see another column with actual and variance, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit. But you do have the ability to enter in your threshold and reorder on this screen as well. Now, if we go back to, let's go back to form view. Okay, I want to take a look at the reports that you have available to you. So you would be looking at the work order screen in this case to find out based on what has been used, and it doesn't matter if your inventory has been turned on or off for this report, you can still get this report. And the report is available up at the top of the screen. There's 3 reports that we're going to look at that are going to give you some information. One of them is the molding and mat board usage report. The other one is the molding usage report by supplier and the glass usage. So let's go to the molding usage by supplier first. And when you click on that, it's going to give you a date range. Now, be careful with your date range. If you do have a lot of orders in there, it may take a little while for it to generate the report because it's going through separating all the products and who the suppliers are to create that listing for you. So what you want to do then is enter that date range. And what I've done is I've done a date range of anything after January the 1st, 2020. Okay, and then 3 periods after that date to give me everything up to today. So if it's up to today, then I don't need to enter in the last date range. And I've created that report, so I'm not going to run the report right now, but I am going to go down to the bottom of the screen here and pull up that report for the mat board usage by supplier. So I just ran a small chunk there with very few work orders on it, but it does give you an idea to tell you. It sorts it out by supplier. So if you're wondering how much you're using a certain supplier during a certain time frame, or if you ran this for the whole year, you would get the whole year to look at on this. So because some frames may be more popular during a certain time than other frames are, but it's going to give you the number of frames that were actually used, okay, the total of all the frames used, and then the footage for each individual one, the total of that. This is the wholesale cost of what you are paying for it based on what's in the price codes file, and then the retail price for it, and then the profit that was made from each one of these. So you'd be able to see your profit over on the right hand side. And of course, down at the very bottom of the list is the grand total, which is all of the frames that were sold, the footage that was sold, etc. So this is a great way to look at certain molding to say, wow, I'm really using this frame a lot, or I've used this one a lot during the year. Maybe I should be buying it in bulk rather than buying it in length one at a time as I need them. So any place that you can buy to your advantage, you want to do that. And this report is going to give you a chance to see that. The other report that we have available to us is again up at the top of the screen. We're going to go to reports and we're going to look at molding and mat board usage report. This one's a little bit different. Again, you still have that same date range that you can enter in. So if I wanted everything after that date, with the 3 periods, 2 or 3 periods entered in there. And then I'm going to click proceed. And if you want to see them before you print, make sure that you have the pause on preview and the show print dialog box. Otherwise, it's just going to go and print them for you. Okay, so we want to go there. And then I'm going to go back to the reports, and over here on the report, there we are. So this report looks a little bit different. It is going to change them to report by the group. So it will have the group of mat board listed separately here, and then each of the molding groups, extender, fillet, liner, metal, wood, are all going to be listed separate again. Each item is going to be listed, and then the total that was used. So for the mat board, it's going to list 12 whole sheets that were used of this mat board, along with the 4 point whatever we have here listed, 4.75, so it's used 4 3/4 of a mat board. And as you go down the list, you may find that there are a lot of mat boards that you have that you've only sold 1/4 of a sheet. And I know that I've done this a lot with other people, and we've seen this great big long list of mats that are sold by 1/4 of a sheet. That's all that's sold. And that's why it's really important to make sure that if you do have a lot of mats in there, that you are covering the wholesale cost of the mat board at the time of the sale. So I know a lot of people say, well, I'll use the rest of it and I'll make a profit later. And if that later never comes because you still have the rest of it sitting in there and it's getting faded and it's getting dented and nobody else wants a Congo green mat, then you have lost money on that because you paid for the client to have it. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment and where you're going to change that pricing to make sure that you cover that cost. But if you do have something that you have sold a fair number of, then you may want to take a look at that and say, yes, I should be probably ordering these mats in bulk rather than just individually. So use your buying power to get a better wholesale cost on what you are purchasing. And these reports are going to let you know that. Down at the bottom of this report, there is an empty group that's just a catch for anything else that may be in there. Glass, hardware, matting, all those other things that are in there, mounting. So if you don't want to print those pages, you can print out just the first several pages if you wanted to print it, or save it as a PDF because you will have that option as well. Now, for those mats that you've got that you've only sold a quarter of a sheet of the mat board, and we know that we want to sell more than that, and we want to cover the cost. If it doesn't sell, then on your mat board, take a look over on the dark blue tab for mat board pricing, and you have something called min price. And in here, at least if you put in the cost of the mat, then it will not go below the cost. Because if this isn't in here, and this is a $19 mat, depending on where your markups are, even if somebody came in for an 8x10 mat, you have now lost nearly $5 or over $5 because you sold the mat to them for less than it was costing you to purchase the mat. So at least minimum, you want to put the word cost in there, and it floats up and it levels off to wherever it reaches the cost of the mat. Now, that still means that you haven't made any money on this at all. So your time to purchase the mat, order the mat, cut the mat, all of that has not been profitable at all. So you want to put something in here. If it's $2, $3, $4, $5, something so that you have at least made $5 on the sale of this small mat that you don't know if you're going to sell it again. All right, and while it's sitting in inventory, at least you made something on that mat. So that's one of the ways that you can take a look at your costing and say, I want to make sure I'm profitable. You can see when you run that report how many mats you have that are sitting there and you've only sold a quarter of it and you haven't made any profit on that yet. Now, if you have a mat that is your go-to mat, your go-to white mat, your go-to black mat, you can go into that one mat specifically and remove the cost and the amount and say, I don't want to have a minimum cost on that because this is the one that I keep in stock. I buy in bulk. I've got lots of scrap on it. That's fine. But for the others, let's go ahead and put that cost +5 back in or +2, something. The other report that we want to take a look at is glazing. We want to get the glazing report, and just before we take a look at the glazing report, you need to also look at, and there's the glazing usage report, but we need to also know the report is going to be based on these numbers here. And this is where FrameReady suggests the glazing size that's going to work for the piece that you're framing. And on each work order, if we go find all, okay, and then we can go back through these, you'll see that it may be a different size depending on the order that we have. So the question is, where does that number come from? And if you go back up to the top of the screen and click on Perform, go down to Setup Options, and over to the right, we're going to click on Default Glass Sizes. And when you click on that, it's going to give you a chart. Now, some people have chosen to say, well, I only ever order 32 by 40, so I don't want it to show all the other sizes in my chart. In which case, when you get your glass usage report or the glazing usage report, it's only going to suggest that you ever buy a 32 by 40 because it will say that's all you need. So if you have these other sizes that you may not be using, but it's going to suggest them to you anyway on your usage report, that's going to be able to tell you maybe you should be buying some of those other sizes. So I'm going to move to the glazing usage report now. If we click on reports and go to glass usage, it's going to come up with, again, that same date range. And you can enter it in for whatever date you want. As I said, check if it's too long, too large a group, it's going to take a long time to do it, and you cannot interrupt the process. Once you've started to do this, it's going to continue to do that. So it's going to be on there for quite a while. Okay, so you won't be able to interrupt the process while it's running. So I want to take a look at the glass usage report. And if I go down to the bottom of my screen, so there's the glazing usage report. And this is what you want to look for. When you go down, it's sorting it out by the type of glass, and then after that, by the size that has been used. So it's going to give you a report how often has that size been used. But when you come across a line where you think, wow, okay, so I've been using that many pieces of the museum glass 16 by 20, maybe I should be buying a box of that size. Because if the only size that you're purchasing is the 32 by 40, this may be more beneficial to you. It may be more economical to you. So if you see some sizes that pop out, here's my premium clear. Apparently that's a size that I use fairly often as well. So I could be purchasing that size and saving on the waste that I have. So the glazing usage report can be very helpful for you as well. So I'm going to exit out of that report. And then Chrissy, if you would like to pull up our next poll that we have.
Sounds good. Which of these fields do you use? Location, threshold, reorder, minimum order, products file, or keep on hand products file.
Excellent. Okay. Yep. Location, minimum order, keep on hand. Oh, wow. That's great, because the minimum order and the keep on hand are a relatively new field that's just recently been added into FrameReady. So that's awesome. People are using it already. Excellent. Thanks, Chrissy. Okay, let's go back into FrameReady. And taking a look here, we're going to go back to the price codes file. So on the inventory list where we have the amounts, and I'm going to go back into the inventory list. I don't have too much in here. So I do have a quantity amount of 10 in this field. At the end of the year or at some point in time, most people do a physical inventory to go back and check. This is a great screen that if you did do that find on here to say find everything where there is something that does have a quantity in it, and we go back to the inventory list view, then it's going to show me that inventory list of all of the items that I have available that say I have something available. And if you wanted to do the find, as I said, just for the mat board or just for the molding, and actually let's go back and do that just for the mat board. So I'm going to find all of the molding that I have, mat board that I have in stock just for mat board. There we go. I've got my list, and I'm going to go to the inventory list view up here, not the other list view. So I'm in the other list view. There's the inventory list view. If you want to go back to the other list view, you're going to click on the button here. If you want to go to one record, you're going to go to the form view. So now I have my list of all the inventory that I have. But when you go through, you can print this out if you wanted to for your year end, and it would give you a sheet that, let's take a look at it. So we've got our listing, and then if somebody wanted to go into the back room and write down what the actual numbers were on a piece of paper, then you can do that. Then when you are finished doing that, come back to the screen, or if you have FrameReady on an iPad, and you can do this on your iPad or your laptop, take it right into the back room. And what's going to happen is that you're going to go through these items and say, do I really have these items in stock? And is this the amount that I have? Or do I have a different number that's in there? And if the numbers are the same, that's great. But otherwise, what it will do is give you a variance report to let you know what are the numbers that are different on here and found on the main menu. So if we go back to the main menu and we go down here to where it says clear inventory fields, and be very careful when you're using this. When you click on this and it says clear the inventory fields, and I do not recommend this, if you were to click on clear inventory fields, it will wipe out all of the numbers that you have in your inventory for the the price codes file. So yeah, this will clear out all the manual inventory that you have entered in. So I would say don't necessarily use those buttons. Okay, the one that you do want here is this one. Move the values from the actual field to the quantity field and clear out the actual field. So when you click on this button, it's going to go back and it's going to change everything for all of the price codes. I've only done the map board, so I don't really want to do it right now, but it will go through and wipe out everything that was in the quantity field, take what's ever in the actual field and move it over into the quantity field. Now, in some cases, if you have old inventory in there that wasn't yours or it's been counting and you want to do a fresh start, then this would be the button to click and say, yes, I want to get rid of everything that's in there right now and just do a fresh start and start doing my inventory as of this moment. Then you can use that button. You can see the big red lettering. So we're saying, please be careful with that. If you're going to do the same thing in the products file, and we go back to the products file over here, again, that inventory list view button is on the right-hand side. And when you click on it, you have your listing of inventory. And then we have the actual numbers that we filled in, and then it's giving us the variance. Now, to run the variance, so if we were to go to the clear inventory fields here, then again, we have that same button that says move the values from the actual field to quantity field and clear it out. And again, if you needed to start all over again, that's the only reason I would ever click on the buttons here. Or if you had items in the actual field that were incorrect, you could clear out the actual field. There we go. For the inventory that you do have, there are different inventory reports that you can use for the products file, and these are wonderful. These are summary reports that you can do by category, and it will omit the consignment features if you want, because you don't want them to be considered part of it. The summary report is just going to be a nice clean report that gives you the numbers that you need. And so how many of those do you have, the wholesale? If you are using the multi-site, it will fill those numbers in for you. Otherwise, it won't show them. They'll just all be empty. If we go continue on, and we've got the inventory reports for detailed items, and if you went for the details, the category report would give you, let's just do the found set, because I do have 60,000 records in my products file right now. So in here, it's going to say what the item is under that group, each individual item, the artist, the edition number, the quantity, the wholesale cost, and the total of the wholesale cost based on the quantity. If you wanted to take a look at the inventory reports for the retail products, for the price codes file, then you can get the auto inventory report for all of the items that are in there. If you're doing the manual, then it would just be either for molding and then a separate report for mat board and glass. So I would say give yourself a little bit of time to do that report when you run it, but it will give you the totals on there that you can use. Great. Then I'm going to say thank you very much for taking some time to learn about the inventory in both the products file and the price codes file, and how to use those numbers to change some of the pricing structures that you have, and also to keep track of the inventory you have and know what needs to be reordered and what shouldn't be reordered. Excellent. Thank you, Chrissy.
Yeah.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.